Oh my goodness, Layton Von Brandt picks the Auburn Tigers.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, I'm Zach Blackerby. He is Darrell Dapprich, joining us from the car because this is such massive news. Layton Von Brandt, one of the best offensive tackles in this class, Darrell. In the final hour, it seems Auburn slipped in and said, no, we're going to do what it takes for you to be a part of this 2027 class. He picks Auburn over Notre Dame and Miami and several other schools. Darrell, this is a big boy recruiting win.
It really is. We actually mentioned him last week on the show, preempting Big Cat. We talked about why we thought maybe Auburn was pivoting to some other offensive tackles. It turns out Auburn may just get both, which is great. Give me all of them, right? So this kid is one of the ones we talk about that could make an immediate impact. He's, I think, the sixth best offensive lineman in the country. That's right, in the country that's being mentioned. You look at his offer list. He's from Delaware, which is pretty cool, up in the Northeast. But just a really, really good get. And I love the fact that Auburn kind of swooped in late on this one. And look, this isn't a kid that wasn't even at Big Cat, correct? I mean, I don't think he was there this weekend. So you have a weekend where you're hyping up all these potential all these visitors on campus, and yet Auburn snags one, from up in the Northeast without even being on campus. I can't overemphasize how big this is in offensive line recruiting. This is one of the ones that the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Miamis, the big schools get, and like I said, makes an immediate impact.
100%. Yeah, whenever we're down to four final teams in the college football playoff, you look at their offensive line. Almost all of them are homegrown guys that they get from high school and they develop over time. And a lot of them look just like Layton Von Brandt. I mean, this is a big, big step. When you talk about maybe 2 years down the road, your offensive tackles being Layton Von Brandt and then Wilson Zierer, like, okay, yeah, this is starting to look like, what a potential elite offensive line could potentially be down the road.
Look at his size, almost 6'7". He's 281, but you know that by the time he starts playing at Auburn, he'll have a lot of room to gain weight to that frame. And these are the kind of kids that you see Georgia get, Alabama get, Auburn loses out on, almost a 5-star recruit from an offensive tackle standpoint. And then you're watching the college football playoff, and this particular type of player that fits this profile is starting in 2 years. And so where we talked about offensive line recruiting in relationship to stars is tricky. One of the things I've completely changed my mind on over the years is stars are inconsequential to me more than looking at offer lists. Now, Boston College is on there, which is interesting, but just understand that's because he's from Delaware, and that's kind of up in that area.
Yeah.
But it's not they're not in play. The Notre Dame thing is big because it's very, other than Deuce Knight, it's very rare that Auburn will go head-to-head with Notre Dame on any particular and end up getting that recruit. So this is another big, I guess you'd call, landmark for Auburn in this particular staff. And Hoodie's getting it done.
He is. And, I mean, it sounds like, you kind of alluded to the other offensive tackle. Certainly seems like Rance Brown will eventually be a part of this class as well. So when you look at the timeline of events here, Darrell, it really kind of seemed like it was Notre Dame's battle to lose. And then I guess late last night, Tom Loy hops into the 247 Notre Dame site and says, hey guys, I don't think this is Notre Dame's anymore. I'm going to dig a little bit more, but it seems like right now my pick would be Auburn. And, I text that to a group text, and you and I are in with several other folks that are pretty plugged in. I'm like, y'all seeing this? Y'all hearing anything about this? And then, everybody kind of digs for a second. They come back. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then you see Wilt Fong put in a Fong bomb prediction for Auburn to land Layton Von Brandt. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is happening. You see Hayes Fawcett, post the mind blown emoji. And, then I get a text from a few Notre Dame people. It's like, yeah, y'all got him. I'm like, oh my goodness. It all happened in the span of like an hour or so last night. And I don't know if we've really had that in a minute.
Well, Sunday nights are all you start to get information just drops. I guess I'll just go back to my original premise that while Auburn was so focused on entertaining and hosting so many other players from across the country, and that was true a national geographic footprint, this one slides under the radar. I mean, I can see if Von Brandt came on campus, got the Auburn experience, had a great weekend, and said, you know what, this is the place for me. This is where I want to be. But to get him under the cloak of night while you're recruiting and you're focusing on all these other visitors that left is a little mind-boggling to me. And it's a little bit kind of unorthodox, to be honest with you. But it's that's a really big recruiting coup to be able to do that while you're focusing on one of your bigger visitor weekends of the year.
Layton Von Brandt becoming a part of this class, absolutely massive. 6'6.5", 281, according to his 247 page. But I think how this was brought about and how we got to this point, and I mean, I think it's kind of similar to what we saw. It's actually really similar to what we saw with them landing Myson Johnson-Cook a few weeks ago. There's a few things about this staff that I think we can take away from this, and let's jump into that in just a moment right here on this quick special edition of Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are here, and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right, turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. You also can bet on Auburn to win the College World Series at plus 1,600 right now, tied for the 7th best odds in all of college baseball. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. All right, final few minutes of this very quick breaking news edition. Good morning, everyone. Holy cow, as Layton Von Brandt becomes the latest member of Auburn's 2027 class. But, Darrell, this is a similar story arc that we saw with Myson Johnson-Cook, the elite running back that Auburn added just a few weeks ago. It's like, okay, Auburn's in it, similar where they were with Layton Von Brandt in the final week or 2 weeks of the recruitment. And then it's like, all right, it slipped away. This case, it was Notre Dame. In the case of Myson Johnson-Cook, it was, oh, okay, Miami's running away with it. And then in the final day or two, you start hearing like, oh, Auburn did what it took, which we assume is a bag drop, right? Which is assume they upped the ante when it came to NIL. But I think these two instances show that there's a select few players in each class that Alex Golesh and the staff are willing to pay for whatever it takes to get them.
It shows me that when they've targeted a particular and specialized player or two with a particular skill set, that they are not going to allow that person to go. So it's like they hone in on a couple of targets. They consider them absolute non-negotiables, that they have to have them. It reminds me a lot of what Hugh Freeze said a couple years ago about Naheem Offord, but it ended up not working out. This staff really felt like Cook and Von Brandt could not afford to allow them to get away and get out of this class. And so when they put their mind to that, saying, we're going to do whatever it takes, they're going to be in this class, they have earmarked a few of these. And a running back is, especially one as good as Cook, and then an offensive lineman, an offensive tackle that's considered one of the nation's elites. Yeah, they become high priority, and it's nice to see this class say, we will not be able to allow them to leave this class. We're going to do whatever it takes. That's a big, kind of a tendency or a characteristic of a coaching staff that's starting to develop that you really can get behind.
Yeah, and then the immediate question is, okay, who else is on that list? And I think Karlos May has to be.
Absolutely.
Right? And Karlos May was a guy that I was starting to think we were letting slip a little bit. His comments leaving, recruiting weekend, which, I guess you can take that for what it's worth, one way or the other, but, not really ready to say that Auburn's number one on his board or anything like that. But I just think with what they've done with Myson Johnson-Cook and what they've done with Layton Von Brandt, I kind of think they're going to do with Karlos May when it's time to put up or shut up for a guy like that.
I agree. I think that there's probably 3 or 4, and doing a deep dive, I don't know if, there's another defensive tackle or a linebacker that they consider absolutely that they have to have, that they
maybe
do not
Culpepper at linebacker.
Maybe Culpepper. Yeah, maybe Culpepper is who I was thinking of. And then there's a series of the next tier of guys they really, really want, but they're not going to overpay for.
Maybe Aparicio Bailey, the defensive back,
the receiver from Nevada, Damani. I think that's another one that I've kind of heard that they really want. Tuiopo, the safety from Thompson. These are these second tier kids that they really, really want, but I don't think they're going to get into a bidding war with anybody over. It's not going to be absolutely positively have to have, absolutely want to have. There are some that you just say, you know what, whatever it takes, we cannot have a class without these guys. They are that crucial. And then there's some that you say, I really, really want them, and I'll do this or I'll do that. So I just did not think that I really felt like the ship had sailed on this Von Brandt kid. This is why recruiting sometimes can be such a wonderful thing from a surprise standpoint, from a coming out of nowhere. Oh my goodness, we're flipping to other kids and switching our pivoting to other kids because Von Brandt is probably off the board. And then something happened. And again, something happened without him even being here. That's the amazing part. You can drop a bag while you're here Big Cat Weekend. I really like that there was a change in the wind, so to speak, and I hope there's more of those to come down the line.
Yeah, definitely gives Auburn fans some excitement and some hope for sure. For all the folks that love to say another 3-star, they don't get to say that.
Listen, I've kept receipts on a couple of the Auburn Daily videos that you've posted on socials where people just say it over and over and over. I may have to revisit some of those comments.
Yeah.
With just one word, update.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Layton Von Brandt, the newest member of Auburn's 2027 class. Incredible way to start a week. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on as you're on the road right now?
Yeah, on the road, Wednesdays and Fridays with you. We have a lot more to talk about. And look, we said May could be a pretty big recruiting month. Some other people said June's the month to look for. Look at how much traction Auburn's gained in May. So we'll probably have a lot more to talk about on Wednesdays and Fridays.
Yep, absolutely. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe and leave us a review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.